Sorry.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I hope you got your dancing shoes on.
Yeah, I can't tell if you're in a scene from Tron or The Matrix there. That's kind of
I
interesting.
like that Tron. That is an interesting point you make. But I was kind of thinking like this is a funky disco scene or something. But Tron, I
Well,
like Tron better.
I like Tron better. That's a little better than Staying Alive and the Bee Gees, I guess.
Call me old school. I don't know.
All right, so for everybody that's starting to join in, we're already got about 10 people showing up or whatever. This is, of course, a special Monday night edition because there was a special meeting called by the Bossier City Council today, and we're going to talk about what they discussed. So let's go ahead and get our countdown out of the way. We can come
Or
back
maybe
and we'll get
or
right into
maybe
it.
what they didn't discuss.
That actually may be more important. As a matter of fact, what they deleted.
Deleted, didn't discuss. I mean, hey, the first rule of Fight Club, remember?
Oh yeah, and don't talk about Fight Club. But this time it might be first rule of the circus is, well, don't talk about the circus. All right, let's go do our countdown, folks. We'll be back in about 2.5 minutes. For those of you that watch all the time, you know the drill. Tag a friend, let everybody know because we didn't really promote this or advertise it, and it is Monday night, not our normal Tuesday night. So anyway, we'll be back in about 2.5 minutes. Here we go.
Oh, good Lord.
Well, all that
I'd
running
have
you
been here.
all that running you're doing through that Tron tunnel right there, I imagine you are
Woo.
getting a little winded.
I'm getting all worked up about the show, Rex. I'm, I'm dying here.
So I understand you're a little hot under the collar over there. Would that happen to be from the city council meeting, or just generally because air conditioning is a wonderful luxury to have?
Man, I come home and the good old boy network has shut down my air conditioning. No,
They went out there and cut you free online.
they cut my free online. It's October and it's hot as Africa in here. I'm gonna tell you.
Yeah.
Woo!
Okay, so we would like to thank everybody. We're over 40 people already that have tuned in to this special Monday edition breaking news segment of Bossier Watch. I don't know. Really, the news isn't all that breaking. We thought there was going to be a sure enough circus in town this afternoon, but it didn't really turn out that way. I was a little,
Well,
little
as you can
dejected.
imagine, our hero, he's the one that took the excitement away. He just like grabbed it and like ripped it away from us with his motion. But in addition to that, let me make one more point. The last show, remember, we were zucked and we had to ask everybody that was watching to help us out because we couldn't share. And I mean, we're in the same situation again. We can't share our show out. I mean, I don't know if the powers that be have reached out to Facebook and said, hey, shut those guys down. They're sharing too much information. So help us out. Reach down there, click that share button, and share us out to help us.
Yeah, we'll kind of do a little crowdsourcing here. So we're trying to do our part on our end from the tech side and the actual information and news side. If we can get y'all to tag and share out, that always helps. And looky there, Duke, I even have the title of tonight's show, and I have the three main primary topics that we're going to discuss tonight already queued up.
Walter O Bigby Parkway. Are we talking about?
Oh, wait. I got to change that. Hold on. I stand corrected. That would actually be carriageway. Let me fix that. We can't call it a parkway if it's actually a carriageway.
But wait a minute. Isn't the thing that we're talking about that same thing that runs along parallel to the river and it's supposed to be, wait a minute, Bossier got in a lawsuit about curb cuts and things like that?
No. That's that other deal, and they built a sidewalk to nowhere, and they built that cute little overpass and had to give away, what was it, 30, 40 acres, and so far as we can kind of see, it's cost the city 40, 50 million bucks, but not that one. This is a new
Now, wait a minute. You said 40, 50 million bucks and they had to give away land. I mean, wait a minute. Are you talking about the Link Coleman documents where he was encouraged to buy this land and that there would be this, promotion of this project and he was even promised a curb cut from some people?
Yeah, and then somebody got their panties in a wad. And, on the city side and decided to jack around with Link Coleman, and he pretty much stuck it to him and broke it off.
Now, this is the same. Now, you're saying carriageway, but I don't even know if you spell that right. I mean, I'm from Halton. Looks good to me. But,
it's pretty close.
Anyway, yeah, from Halton standards, I can go with it. I know what you're trying to say. But isn't this the same parkway? It just comes around, and we're calling it the Walt O. Bigby Carriageway.
No.
North part of this?
No, this is a different one. It's actually over there by your mortgage business, not too far from there, and over basically runs kind of parallel with Benton Road for a little bit, and is coming around. It's over there where they've been doing all that construction over there by Hamilton Road and McElroy Metals and all that.
Yeah, but that's the end of it. So, like, you get off of the parkway down there at the old Isle of Debris, and you get off on Hamilton Road. Am I correct?
Yes, I believe you are correct.
And so I think the big grand picture of this thing is you're going to take Hamilton Road and it changes from the parkway to the Walter O. Bigby Carriageway.
Basically, yeah. And, I honestly hadn't paid that much attention to it until all this drama started. I just knew they were doing some construction over there and they're trying to alleviate traffic. As a matter of fact, we got a map of it here we'll show in a second. And you know what? I'm going to switch us back to our normal scene because this isn't really breaking news at this point.
Well, Mike Cummings says, did Duke shoot off into space with Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos?
Yeah.
And Mark Smith is with us tonight. Looks like Carl Bear Sanders.
Wow. We're drawing quite the crowd tonight for a Monday evening. That's not bad at all. I'm
going to tell you, and it's growing a little bit. So,
all right, let me pull up the map here. Let's
Come on, let's show the map.
Yeah, let's let everybody kind of see what we're talking about. So this is the parkway over here, or this is what this is the traffic study map. And to give everybody little bearings, let me see if I can kind of highlight this. This would be Benton Road right here. All right, this would be Benton Road North going that way. All right, that's Benton Road North, headed up this way. And then this is Shed Road, basically where Shed Road kind of used to end and goes over here to McElroy Metals. All right. So just to kind of give everybody some bearings of what we're talking about. And there's a problem there, and a problem specifically with the railroads that wasn't addressed.
Now, most people scroll back to that would be your south as I'm looking at the map, if I'm accurate. So it'd be to your left there. And you can see right where you have your cursor there in the screen, that's Lou Chandler, Tommy Chandler's brother's yard.
Right in here.
Construction company stuff. But you can see how the road, I mean, we're adding 2 more roundabouts right there. One to the right, one kind of to the left of Lou Chandler's yard there. I ain't got nothing against the roundabouts. I mean, Alexandria's had them for years. I don't know how many wrecks they've had.
Yeah, I mean,
probably good for the ambulance business. I mean,
yeah. And let's see if I'm correct, Duke. This is Highway 80 that I'm highlighting over on the kind of the left side over there, and then
if you're from out of town, you say Highway 80. If you're from Bossier, you say East Texas.
Yeah, and then this would actually be Hamilton Road leading towards the interstate. All right. Yeah. So just to kind of give everybody some bearings on where this parkway is actually going to be.
And that Hamilton Road dead ends into the Isle of Debris right there where the parkway dead ends into the Hamilton Road, right?
Yeah, and let's see. Just to give everybody a little more bearings over here, this building over here that I'm about to circle, that would be McElroy Metals too. So anyway, just so you kind of know where it is. All right. So, but what's the deal with this? Why did they have to have a special meeting for this parkway?
Well, so all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we have this special meeting called at the Bossier City Council for today. Mm-hmm. And it was called, so that they could, I think, hit the deadlines or what have you. They had to shoot it out Friday or something of that nature. And Boy, I don't even know where to start with this clown show. That's the only way I can describe it. I don't know 100% where to start, but I guess maybe we should start on Thursday, last Thursday. So for all of you watching, there was a meeting Thursday morning. So as you know, Las Vegas Tommy Chandler was back in town. And there was a meeting with Amanda Nottingham, CAO, the city attorney, I'm sure, Charles Jacobs, and Ben Rauschenbach. And I think the revelation that, we got a little problem with the Walter O Bigby Parkway. Apparently.
And what problem? Is it because of the roundabouts that they decided to change the roundabouts or something?
Well, I mean, maybe the people from Alexandria were feeling jaded because you were now going to have more roundabouts than them. I don't know. But I think Union Pacific Railroad had something up their sleeve that, and somehow or another it was conveyed that maybe there's a problem here and that, by the way, we're not going to go for this crossing at Shed Road of this railroad and this overpass. And there's some kind of problem there.
Is this a brand new project? Like, did they just start this project a week or two ago, or?
I think I'm playing coy here. I don't think at all. In fact, I know that there was talk and discussion about this project going all the way back to 2017, Rex. 2017.
And so, in 3-4 years, whatever it is, you're moving around in that tunnel, and it's jacking with me. Okay.
Yeah.
So in 3 or 4 years of this project, the Walter O Bigby Parkway Carriageway, whatever. Let me correct it over here too. Nobody thought that they might have to get permission from the railroads to cross the railroad because
well, hold up. We could so easily jump to the end of this real fast, but we got to build this thing up. So Thursday morning, there's this meeting. Everybody's got to understand. Thursday morning, there's this meeting, with Chandler, the CAO, city attorney, Ben Rauschenbach, the city anointed engineer, with Manchac. And, oh, by the way, hey, we got a problem. Union Pacific Railroad is not going to approve our permit to do this project. And initially, so here's the question. Maybe I shouldn't say initially. I got to say what I think happened.
Mm-hmm.
But what I will say, let's jump to the afternoon. So by the afternoon, a draft email is being formed and a notice sent around to all the council members. And that draft email is being sent around about calling a special meeting to be held today. And it's going to be to fire the contractor on the job who is said to have done business with City of Bossier for like over 20 years or a roundabout or something like that, for not ensuring that the permits to complete the job for the Walter O Bigby Parkway were done.
Wait a minute. The contractor had to get the permits. Is that what the contention was?
Supposedly. So,
okay. So, I mean, what could be the problem with that?
Well, so Thursday afternoon, this draft email is sent around about, potentially calling this special meeting about firing in NTB, NTSB, however you want to say it, the name of this company, NTB, I think. Let's just say NTB. So Friday morning, I guess there was no objection. So Friday morning, Phyllis sends out a notice of a special meeting in the form of a press release. All the press got it, but I would point out, you and I didn't get it.
We're shocked.
We're not considered press. They don't respect us.
I am shocked, especially since one of the, I guess you could argue, maybe slightly leading publications around here today was texting me, asking me for information. I am just shocked that we are not considered a legitimate news source.
I feel like Rodney Dangerfield. No other press has the background that I have. None of them are as fancy as what I've got right now. Okay.
You're in a Tron tunnel. I mean, nobody tops that.
They can't top that. They can't even be at the beach okay. All right.
So in all seriousness, we're not a news source. We take the news and the things that are going on and the things that people send us, and we report on that with all of the spin and soapbox effort that we can muster.
I think we're doing what media will not do. I think we're doing where no media has traveled before.
Exactly. And eventually you'll get there on your side of the screen. You've been traveling for miles in that tunnel. Okay, so moving on. So this draft email is sent around, and I'm guessing that's what, to all the city council members, to the Tommy's administration, or what? So
apparently, they're talking about having this special meeting, right? Mm-hmm. Well, from what I understand, the Manchac guy, he wanted to have a meeting to where they would have this resolution. And by having this resolution, and I don't know the circumstance, whether it was condemning the contractor or whatever, but what I do know is that by having a resolution, you could have took a vote right then at that morning, right there at that moment. But by having an ordinance, you discuss it, and then you can't vote on that. You have to vote on it the next meeting. So I will give credit where credit's due. I think that the council maybe made the right decision, that they decided that they were going to have this ordinance. And I think maybe you have the proposed ordinance that they were going to have in this special meeting in Cut 1 agenda, which was going to be I guess, basically pummel NTB. So
Mm-hmm.
they send out on Friday this agenda in a press notice.
Mm-hmm.
But what everybody doesn't know is at the same time, they also sent out a cease and desist letter to this contractor.
Cease and desist letter?
Yes, sir.
Hmm. Hmm.
They sent a cease and desist letter. Mark Smith says we're not media.
Yeah, I saw that. But media is the plural of medium, and medium can also be defined as a particular form of storage for digitized information, etc. So technically, we're putting out media. Our medium happens to be pixels on Facebook and YouTube. So anyway, go watch the Saints, Mark. Keep trying. Go
Yeah,
ahead, dude.
good job, Mark. Go. Bye. Anyway, so they send out this press release, but they also send, this notice to the contractor and they said you need to cease and desist from any work on behalf of the city of Bossier.
Hmm.
And basically I mean, it was a lot of other stuff, but like really smacked this contractor upside the head.
But
Now,
but
how would
but wait a minute. Hold on. So wasn't the contractor paid in advance?
I think that's accurate, but we have to check that.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure.
I know they've been paid some at least, but I thought I heard or read somewhere that they had been paid in advance. Okay, so anyway, so obviously the contractor's not happy. They apparently want to finish the job, I'm sure.
Well, to kind of go out on a limb a little bit. So what a lot of people don't know is that Sunday the contractor responds back to the cease and desist letter that came from the city attorney.
Oh, really?
Basically, he did and said, we acknowledge your cease and desist letter,
Mm-hmm.
but we wanted to point out that in our contract, where it shows that the city engineer and the city are responsible for the permits pertaining to this project,
Oh,
clearly
really?
in black and white, saying we're not responsible for it.
So I'm going to put a comment up from Brian Warner because that ties right into this. He had commented just a couple of minutes ago that standard contracting package, the contractor is responsible for all permits, materials, labor, etc. So in this case, the contractor being NTB Associates or whatever. Anyway, in the contract, they're not responsible for those permits. It would actually be the city, also known basically as Manchac.
Yeah, so what I think you had happen is I think you had proverbial the stuff hit the fan. I think Manchac shows up Thursday morning and tries to throw the blame off on the contractor, and the mayor, the council, the city attorney, all of them, they roll with it without any of them actually reading the contract. They
Well,
had it had to be the case.
surely not, dude. Surely they actually read the contract. You must be joking.
I I I swear I think none of them read the contract, and then all of a sudden this contractor gets smacked upside the head, responds back after they've done, beat them up, made them look bad. I mean, but here you've got this press release with this agenda, and let's just see the press release of the agenda for the
Yeah,
special meeting.
yeah. So let me get over here to the agenda. So that's going to take me a second here. But
Because a lot of folks may not realize what we're talking about and how, I hate to say it, I don't know if egregious the right word to use.
I don't know. Give me a second here. I just about got this thing pulled up. But I would say that there we go. Let's go back to here. But why? All right, so here's the agenda coming up right about now. There we go. Okay. So, but the question would be why would they be so willing to throw NTB, the contractor, under the bus? I mean, it doesn't make sense.
When there's a screw up, somebody's got to go under the bus. It doesn't matter, or the Zamboni in this case. Somebody has to go under the Zamboni.
Oh, well, okay, now I'm getting the picture. So they couldn't throw Manchac under the bus because we've all been told that they're the greatest thing since sliced bread, and we're getting such a heck of a deal, and they're saving us so much money, and everybody loves them and all that. It couldn't be their fault or the city itself's fault because nobody read the contract.
Now later on, when we get to some video in here that folks, we've got a lot of support documentation and video. Don't just take our words for it. You're gonna see the video, and you're gonna see all the principles involved in this deal. You're gonna see their words themselves. Don't. I mean, we're just putting it in a format for you to absorb it. That's all we're doing.
All right, so I've got today's agenda pulled up finally, and it says we got two things under new business. One is discussion regarding closure of the Shed Road Union Pacific Railroad at grade crossing, currently part of the WOBC project. So that's right there where Shed Road goes over the tracks, which has been closed now for, I don't know, at least several months. I'm really not sure how long. And then number two was introduce an ordinance to rescind ordinance number 72 of 2021 and terminating said contract with NTB Associates for cause and cease and desist any future payments required pursuant to said contract. First reading by our very own Zamboni brother, Charles Jacobs.
Now, that just seems harsh right there. I mean, but interestingly, none other than Point of Order himself came in to save the day at the start of this special meeting. And he, at the start, regarding the agenda, asked to remove item 2 off the agenda.
Well, yeah, and we've actually got the video highlights of that, of course. You can go to their YouTube channel and view them. And there wasn't any discussion about it either. I mean, that's the other thing.
No, nobody. It was unanimous. Not anybody talked about it or whatever. It's almost as if they were all on the same page before the meeting even started.
All right, so let me see if I can get to that cut. Give me just a second here. That's not the right one. Here we go. All right, and I had it marked on the time at about the 3:18 mark here, so let me zip up to that. All right, let me back up a little bit. Okay, so here in about 10 seconds, we're going to see hear the motion.
Today's agenda. Do we have any?
I'd like to make the motion that we delete item 2 from the agenda.
I'll second that.
And remember, folks, item 2 was one basically to fire NTB
Do you have
Associates.
any questions?
Oh, look,
Need a second.
Mr. Williams, second.
Okay, sorry, thanks.
Sorry, let me get.
nobody questions it.
Any questions from the audience?
I mean, nobody said, hey, wait a minute, why are we here at this special meeting in the first place? Because number 2 was obviously the biggest point to the whole dadgum meeting. I'm gonna hit play, but keep talking. There's no discussion.
Why did none of the council members ask,
I mean,
why are we doing this?
even the
Did they
mayor,
all
there's Tommy sitting over there. Nobody asked anything. They're just like, oh,
Why
okay.
Did they all know? Why did none of them say, well, why are we moving that off the agenda?
Well, now, wait a minute, Duke. If they all already knew, that would assume some sort of walking quorum going on.
No.
And remember, they don't do that sort of thing.
Okay, but
They
the
don't do
motion
that. Not in
carries
Bossier.
Unanimously.
You heard that. The motion carries unanimously. They literally call a special meeting to have where item number 2 on the agenda. Let me see if I can get back to that. Where item number 2 on the agenda is to introduce an ordinance to rescind blah blah blah, terminating a contract, a multi-million-dollar contract with NTB Associates for this parkway or carriageway they've been promoting, and there's literally no discussion about it. Nobody said, well, wait a minute, why did we have to come over here in the first place on Monday? What the hell, people?
Yeah, what are we doing here? We could have had this discussion about shutting down Shed Road, like how many years ago? Well, anyway, never mind. I digress.
It's just so aggravating. So did nobody think, let me get back over to this too.
Okay.
And all right, so I want to pull this up. So this is the map, And here again, here is Shed Road, okay, and this is leading where this proposed roundabout was. McElroy Metals is up here where I'm wiggling the little pointer in the hand around, okay. This would be basically north, headed this way up the tracks, give or take a little bit. All right, so there's the railroad tracks. You know, that crossing's been there for, I don't know, a long, long time. Did nobody think that they had to get the okay from the railroad before they can touch the railroad? There's a rule. You don't jack with the railroads.
Now, Rex, we coined this show to infinity and beyond. And for everybody watching, there is a reason that we coined this show to infinity and beyond. And it applies to this here subject, issue, whatever.
Right.
So Bossier now, they coined a little bit of what was said in the or copied a little bit of what was said in the meeting today, and some of the quotes that kind of jumped out at me, and I threw them in the notes.
Yeah, I'm grabbing the link here now.
Yeah, before you were able to see, but I think it was Ben Rauschenberger. I can't pronounce Ben's name. It's not personal, but I just can't pronounce your name. It's like Lowry. I mean, if everybody was to try to spell it, they would spell it wrong. But anyway, he said, according to UP, and I believe it, they've had nearly 30 incidents at that incident over the last couple of decades, and it's one that they are anxious to see go away. And frankly, having that at-grade crossing defeats the purpose of the overpass there. Well,
okay. Well, that's true. I mean, that's a point.
Well, of course he would say that. He's kind of on the hot seat here a little bit. We hadn't completely spelled out how he's on the hot seat, but him and his company are on the hot seat here. Of course he's going to diminish the significance of that roadway there. And in regards to the 30 incidents, you know, I'm not saying it's not true, but what I will tell you is I mean, look, I freaking worked down there for 20 years at the fire department. I don't remember there being 30 instances in my career down there. I mean, maybe they happened, maybe they didn't. I'm wondering what kind of incidents happened over that time frame, because I don't remember it.
It could be, look, not that I would ever recommend that anybody do this, but it could be some kids laying metal across the tracks, or maybe they were stacking pennies or quarters on the tracks for the trains to run over and smash. I mean, those incidents could literally have been anything that they're counting, but the way they made it sound, it's like there have been 30 major wrecks and fatalities there. I mean, maybe there have, but...
Well, maybe so. Well, he goes on and says some quote to the fact of that the cost of the changes that will have to be made as a result of shutting down the Shed Road crossing right there, you know, will be minimal to none. And he's probably right. I would suspect that if they're going to shut that road off, you know, it's just basically you don't have another road crossing over the railroad tracks right there.
Yeah, and let me, I'm going to try to fast forward because I've got this queued up somewhere. So this is at the 11:24 mark, somewhere right in here. And this is where Chris Smith asked him about the cost. Basically the only one on the council that asked about cost.
We want to get, I can't answer that, hopefully minimal to none, but we didn't want to pursue any of that energy, put any energy into that until we had a clear direction forward by the council.
Wait a minute. What kind of answer is that? Hold on a second.
Right.
So
Wait a minute. Let's hear this in whole context. Hold on.
To altering the plan.
All right, there he goes. He said any cost to the altering the plan. Chris Smith asked that.
We want to get, I can't answer that, hopefully minimal to none, but we didn't want to pursue any of that energy, put any energy into that until we had a clear direction forward by the council. So, you know,
maybe till y'all actually have permission from the railroad to go across the railroad. All right, but wait a minute. You intrigued me with something because it was the title of the show, To Infinity and Beyond. I think we kind of lost track of that. So,
yeah. So basically, he ends up saying, I mean, and I don't know at what point in the video it is, but he ends up saying that for the most part, if we don't shut this down, basically this project's over with. That, you're not going anywhere. This is the deal. Take it or leave it. You're over with. So no overpass, no crossing at Shed Road, no Walter O Bigby carriageway. Why is it called Walter O Bigby carriageway? I don't even realize that. I mean,
It's named after Walter O Bigby, who was he a state rep or state senator or whatever back in the 70s or 80s. Sarah,
yeah, no, but it's a continuation of the parkway down by the Isle of Debris.
I don't know. Sarah Kent says, who is the man at the podium? That is Ben Rauschenbach. I believe I said that correctly. He is the city engineer for Manchac Corporation, which I guess collectively that company is technically the city engineer, but he represents them, or however they got all that figured. But his name's Ben Rauschenbach.
So, Rex, for the 90-something people watching, they've got to be wondering, how did we get here? What are we talking about here? Why are we making such a big deal about this parkway and the road closing? And what's the rub here? I mean, okay, it's just...
Well, that is a valid point. So how did we get here, and what's the big deal about this? I mean, other than the fact that this is, what is it, a total $50 million project somewhere around there? I mean, that's part of the reason, folks. $50 million of our tax money.
Yeah, but I mean, we're passing bonds of $150 million, whether we need it or not, for a YMCA. Oh,
well, not...
That's jumping a little far ahead, ain't it?
We'll get back to the village people. Just remember, we're borrowing the money for the issuance against the issuance of the bonds. There's a big distinction there. But anyway, I digress.
I think for us to properly frame this, and for everybody watching, and you're wondering, why is this such a big deal? I mean, it is your tax dollars. It's the same as when we were harping on the Cypress District, and we need to get back on the Cypress District because they haven't been on the radar. I mean, there's no telling how much money of all of you in Bossier they've wasted already. But, here we have money of yours that is being spent, and you trust in your elected officials to do what's in your best interest. But we got to figure out, how did we get here? So it sounds like a great idea for a parkway to go from South Bossier to North Bossier with hardly no impediments, and I'll jump off on the Link Coleman thing.
Well, but hold on. I want to stop you there for a second.
Okay.
So I'm going to go back over here to the map of this. All right. Let me see if I can get this thing to scroll out. And again, this is the traffic study map, so I don't have it like pulled up in Google Maps, so I can't, show the whole thing right now without pulling up Google Maps, which I'm not going to do at the moment. Okay, so I want you to tell me how this little segment right here is going to really connect the north and the south, because you still got to go down Benton Road, and Benton Road is arguably almost as bad as going down Airline Drive. I would rather take 220 and drive all the way around town before I would go down Airline Drive prior to 8 p.m. at night. And Benton Road is nearly as bad. So I don't get, I'm no traffic engineer, certainly not, but I don't get how this is going to be the saving grace of traffic in Bossier. I really don't.
It's not. It is not, Rex, not at all. I mean, and I got to tell you, it begs the question, if it's not going to solve the problems, then why are we doing it? The idea was that supposedly you would be able to get on the parkway and say South Bossier down by Parkway High School, ride this road all the way through, hit as minimal amount of traffic lights as possible to get to North Bossier, and it would be the fastest route to get through town.
Well, it may be, but are they going to dedicate Hamilton Road so you can see Hamilton Road down here where I'm kind of moving around? Are they going to dedicate Hamilton Road and remove the, red lights and the little traffic intersections right through here? Are they going to remove the red lights and all that on Benton Road to head north?
No.
I mean, somebody out here that knows more about this chime in, because maybe this is one piece of the puzzle, and eventually they'll do that 25, 30 years down the road. I don't know.
And the folks watching, by all means, y'all chime in. I mean, because there was someone commented earlier, or someone, maybe it may even have been a personal message. I may be mixing something here, but said that somebody down there around McElroy Metal or in that area of business knew that this was going to fall apart well in advance. But going back in time and saying, how did we get here? Guys, this is no surprise that we have this problem here now with your tax dollars and here in North Bossier. And how do I know that? Well, you would have to go to the council meeting on February the 4th of 2020, and that would be all you would need to see to know that, hey, we've got a problem.
All right, so we'll pull that up here in just a second, but I want to point out a couple of things. One, some commentary here, and so Bear Saunders says, "Do y'all know the crossing number for Shed Road?" Not offhand, Bear, unless you happen to find it today. All right.
Well, and Chris Fink, in which I know Chris, and I like Chris, he made a comment. He said, Ben is a Bossier boy with kids in the school system.
Right.
He's a civil engineer rooted in our community. I promise you, he's good for Bossier, but his hands are tied as usual due to the idiot city council.
Yeah, he's following orders or doing whatever he's supposed to do in his job. I don't know Ben, but he seems like he's an okay guy, but he's in the position of being the face at most of the city council meetings for Manchac.
Yeah. Again, we got to go back in time, and we're not trying to beat up on Manchac completely here because, I think this is a lot of people's problem, this whole thing. And ultimately, like everything, it's always you, the taxpayer. I mean, hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I don't think it's a surprise to you that you end up being the ones that foots the bill for all these mistakes. But,
yeah, we seem to be picking up of course we are, as the taxpayers picking up the tab. So I want to throw up a couple more comments on the screen here. Tony Thornton says, I just want to know when Airline Drive road sewage collapse will be done. That's got to be costing a pretty penny. Our friend Barry Butler says, I think part of it's for pollution reduction, less traffic lights, fewer idling cars. Well, they better get to pulling some traffic lights off of Benton Road and Hamilton Road and through there.
Tony Thornton, I would suggest that ain't going to happen until they decide who the Zamboni is going to run over in this case.
Exactly. Miss Ann Price says needs to connect to I-220. Richard Harville says, I traveled from north to Central Bossier for 64 years. I can count on two hands the number of times I've actually seen trains out on that little spur of railroad tracks. Now trains in Bossier are a royal pain in the rear end still. This is really overblown the way the council is handling it. I would tend to agree with that, Richard. And one more comment, and then we'll move on. James Lloyd Collins says, did Manchac not read the contract? Somebody is not doing their job. Apparently, the city attorney didn't read the contract either, and neither did the rest of them when they shot this email around and put out this agenda to fire them today. All right.
Okay, so we're going to resolve some of these questions that folks have on the February 4th, 2020 council meeting.
Yeah, so let me get that started queuing up here. February 4th. Yeah,
at the 1742 mark, approximately 1742 mark, former city engineer Mark Hudson speaks regarding the subject.
Okay, so let me get us queued up here. That was at the 1742 mark. Whoop, went a little past it there. Give me a second, folks. Yeah, and so that answers another question earlier of who the former city engineer was, which was, is his last name Hudson? Something like that?
Yeah, Mark Hudson. Okay. Super nice guy. He is a mild-mannered guy. I remember he was there when I was at the fire department, and I used to see him in the gym, and we would talk, and super nice guy. I mean, I find it hard to believe how anybody could not like the cat.
All right, so I'm going to hit play here in just a second, but we've got a comment in here. Joseph Littlejohn says this is the crossing number for that little railroad off of the little Shed Road spur right there, basically at the end of Shed Road for the most part. That is the crossing number. I forgot who asked for that earlier. Okay, so let's hit play and let's see what Mark Hudson has to say.
Drawings over to the Corps of Engineers by the next time I talk to you to initiate the Corps of Engineers review of all of that. The big scary thing out there, Council, is Union Pacific Railroad. We've been back and forth with them for years, In 2007, they sent me a letter and they said, you're good to go with a few comments. And we started addressing their comments. That was in 2017, and we haven't satisfied them yet. They're very slow to respond. We do have a guy talking to me now, a nice guy, but again, slow to respond. But encouraging this morning, I got an invoice from him, so that tells me something's going on there. So we'll just keep on trying with them and hopefully get a permit from Union Pacific Rail one day.
So I'm going to
Okay.
stop it right there. So this was February the 4th of 2020 at the city council meeting, correct?
February the 4th of 2020, and here we are today, October the 25th of 2021, and we don't have a permit from UOP, but yet we've got this massive project. But right here in February the 4th of 2020, he's sitting there saying the big scary thing out there is UP.
Well, and he
What?
also references in there that they've been working on these items for Union Pacific since 2017, 3 years prior to this particular meeting.
Now, incidentally, one other thing that jumps out in this video right here in the audience. First off, there's a lot of folks in the audience, more so than normal, but there's one person in the audience that kind of jumped out at me. Do you see it?
Well, let's see. I do see Shane Cheatham sitting there. Is that Shane?
Boy, I can't get nothing past you, can I?
Who else is in
He
that
was-
audience?
He was there.
Right.
Well, that was the only one that kind of jumped out at me. Shane
Okay.
Cheatham is there in the audience paying attention.
In 2017. Shane, if you're watching, what were you there for in 2017?
But in this
Anyway.
particular meeting, there was one other thing, and I don't
Okay.
want to take away from the significance of the fact that this was February the 4th, 2020. You had
Right.
the engineer for the city, Mark Hudson, say the big scary thing out there is Union Pacific. He just pointed out that the biggest issue pertaining to the Walter O Bigby carriageway was Union Pacific. So for anybody to say they had no idea, it's a surprise, it's a shock, you just saw it right there.
Yeah.
February the 4th, 2020.
Okay, yeah, so this is nothing new. All right, so now I've jumped up to the 57. We're almost to the 57:45 mark.
Yep. Now here, David Jones. Now, David Jones, a lot of folks may not know who David Jones is, but David Jones was a former councilman in Bossier City. He had some interesting comments that he came up and spoke as a citizen, and I just roll the tape.
All right, here we go. Tell me when to stop.
Let's get all the comment. David, would you like to speak? Yes, please. And are you speaking for leasing the Civic Center or against?
David Jones, as a citizen, not as Red River right now, 5100 Terra Lane in Bossier. I'd like to commend you for exploring your options. You know, you can play a shell game with the numbers, but bottom line is, as far back as '97, we found out that we were losing or subsidizing it to the point with enough money to burn a wet mule. And we realized we had to do something. And
Enough
that's
money
when we
to
went
burn a
that
wet
route.
mule.
You'll remember this, Mr. Darby and Mr. Williams. And we got Representative Montgomery to add the
Now-
Civic Center to the.
Now he's talking about
allowable
the
uses.
Civic Center and the city of Bossier subsidizing the Bossier Civic Center, using taxpayer dollars to subsidize a venture that should be able to support itself.
Right.
And he's ultimately talking about, government and how maybe perhaps the city of Bossier should be governing itself. He's no longer a councilman anymore. He's a citizen. And anyway, keep rolling.
Okay, here we go.
Tax money, because initially it was just downtown development, period. And we did that because we were subsidizing it out of the general fund. And that's the same fund that you hire cops with and you hire firemen with, and you operate the lifeblood of the city with that same fund. And we had to get that off our back. I mean, that elephant was on our back, and we looked at the numbers, And it just thought, maybe we can stomach this if we can have it subsidized through those taxes. And that's why the tax even was allowed to be spent there. And like I said, it's a shell game. Show me what you can go touch. Show me, let me go touch something that you could build with money that right now you can't build it with the subsidized monies, the taxes. But East Bank bathroom, hey, if you need to go to the bathroom, you're going to be real proud of that, okay? The subsidized money, show me what you
I'm not sure where he was
actually
going
touch.
there.
I'm not
And
really
at the
sure.
time when the whole voters nationwide are asking for more efficiency in government.
But he
and
keeps
do
mentioning
more with
subsidy.
less,
That's a buzzword.
I want to commend you and ask you to please keep going forward and exploring your options. Thank you.
Right there. When people are expecting government, more accountability, and he encouraged them to explore their options. Trying to be more accountable to the citizens, more accountable to the public. I mean, when I was researching this subject matter and the show, and I found Hudson's comments and him making that point, I got to tell you, I think it fell on deaf ears. He made a good point, and it fell on deaf ears, because if they were exploring all of the options and considering, limited government ideals on behalf of the taxpayers, they would have listened to what the man said. I think it went in one ear and out the other.
Well, yeah, they all claim to be conservative, but it's like I tell everybody, okay, fine, define conservative. If you say you're a conservative, define conservative and do it in 3 sentences or less. And nobody can do that because they don't know what the hell conservative actually means. But I digress.
I think a lot of people watching this show, a lot of people, they don't know they're conservative in nature, but they don't even know it.
Right.
If they think that good, I mean, how many people watching, because it's kind of slowed down on the comments, but a lot of people watching, I wonder, do you think that some elected bureaucrat should be able to just spend your tax dollars at will with no accountability whatsoever? If you think that's fine, you're obviously not a conservative. If you believe there should be some accountability and they should be held responsible for the decisions that they make with your tax dollars, or that you should even as a voter be able to have a say in how much you're taxed and what they can do with those tax dollars, I would argue that you're a conservative. But
yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly.
So we got to jump ahead to the March 17th, 2020 council meeting, because we got to move right. We're going to paint the picture here, guys, for why this is a big deal, where we're going with all this.
All right, so we're going to the 1050 mark. So let's see here. Somewhere right in here. Is this where you want to be, right?
This is it. And for a lot of folks that don't know, this is Assistant City Attorney Gordon
Walter
Mosley.
Carriageway project. We have acquired 3 properties since we last met, mainly.
Now,
this one in front of Green
those
Bay
maps that he's showing right there is the proposed route of the right-of-ways. And that was, for the most part, that was all that I wanted to show out of those, was to show the right-of-ways that Gordon Mosley is putting up there. As you can see, across Benton Road, there's a building that the city of Bossier now owns. I wonder, with this $75 million, with half of it going to, or proposed to go to YMCA, why couldn't they just repurpose this building that they just had to buy and make that the YMCA?
Maybe there wasn't enough room to get the village people in to dance. Who knows?
Look at there. Bossier Watch just saved the city $30 million.
Oh, you can't do that, Duke, because they need that money to be spent with their friends and cronies. Whoops, I didn't say that. All right, so we're going to the 1539 mark, correct?
1539 mark. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. Somewhere right in here. Let me hit play. Here we go.
And it's on the south side of the project.
Okay. I was going to ask Mr. Mosley, you have 3 properties left to acquire, right?
On the Walter O Bigby carriage?
Yes. So what's your projection of how long it'll take to purchase those 3?
And, Mr. Darby, total, it's 5 properties. There's 3 properties we need to put the project out to bid. We don't need Nichols Lube Center or, more properties before we put it out to bid. So these 2 properties. So really we have, let's see, we have Charles Smith. He's on Citizens Bank Drive. We need to acquire his property. Block Investors, which.
Now, I
we
think
should
that's
acquire
Charles
these
Smith,
right
the
now.
district
That settlement
judge.
statement has been signed by all parties
And he's
involved.
talking about John
And
Settle, I
Brigham
think.
Dennis.
Yeah,
Also
I was
need
gonna
to
say
acquire.
Settle's
So,
office is somewhere over there.
Once we get the Block Investors property in the mail and we record it, we'll really have 2 properties before we can put it out to bid. And on those, it's still up in the air. I'd say, a conservative estimate, I'd say 2 months, but we're hopeful that we're not gonna have to expropriate. Because Charles Smith, we're still negotiating, and if ultimately he doesn't accept, we'll have to expropriate, wait for the appropriate time delays, and then
You're going to expropriate.
Brigham Dennis, we're still negotiating.
In other words, they're going to make you an offer you can't refuse. Legally, you can't refuse.
In his court.
In his own court, yeah. Wonder if he'd have to recuse himself. How would that work? Anyway. Okay, so, yeah, so they had, he said 3 to 5 properties or whatever that they basically had to take. Yeah, and they do pay people, but it's market value, so they basically had to take
So on March 17th, they ain't got but 3-4 properties that they've got left to get cleared up, and they'll have all the properties that they need to do this project.
Right.
Everybody following along? Don't miss, because if you're not following along, you're going to miss the point here in the end. They've done acquired all the properties they need except for 3 or 4 left to acquire. So,
all right. So are we jumping back to the 1724 mark?
Yes, we are. So
okay,
good.
Or let's see. Or actually, yeah, jumping ahead slightly. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to just hit play. Here we go.
Negotiating with their attorney.
Okay. But the good news is less than 6 months, less than 12 months to get the other properties.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, thanks.
I wanted to ask, just for clarification, when we expropriate, we put the money in the bank on deposit, right?
In the clerk's office. We file a suit, file it in the clerk's office.
So at that point, we can proceed with the project, right?
Basically, we get, when we put the money on deposit in the clerk's office, we get title.
So to answer your question, I think we actually, when we do the expropriation, that is essentially buying it. So we don't have to wait beyond the expropriation filing, is that correct?
Yes, sir. Title vests as soon as the money's deposited to the clerk's office.
Hmm.
So, given that, we are inside of 60 days, right? Because we would file the expropriation within
Yes, sir.
60 days?
Yes, sir. Again, with the Brigham, we're just
Well,
negotiating.
let me pause right there. Why is King David in such a hurry? I mean,
you drew that conclusion. He's in a hurry.
that's
to
just
get
how
to
it came across.
He's in a hurry to get to. So technically and legally, once we have this paperwork filed and we expropriate this property, how soon can we start breaking ground? Can we start digging with a shovel? How fast can we get the construction rolling? How fast can we move this along? It begs the question, Rex, of what?
Well, it begs. Well, it's always the follow the money thing, but here's the question just ran through my head. They were in such a hurry to take people's property. Oh, I'm sorry, expropriating people's property. They forgot to go talk to the railroads again. Nobody's mentioned the damn railroad.
What railroads? Railroads? Wait a minute. That ain't that big of a deal.
They don't understand. They don't control the railroad other than they can fine them if they have a train sitting there longer than 10 minutes or whatever that is, but they don't control the railroad.
Oh, wait a minute. Mark Hudson said the big scary thing out there, but I digress. Roll on.
Okay, so do we want to roll on up to the 40-15 mark?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
All
And
right.
Darby asks a really important question, and then immediately after that, Jimmy Hall chimes in.
Oh, this should be fun. All right, so this is the 40 mark, so we've got 15 seconds, and then Darby will be. All right, here we go.
And going forward, what active role will the city engineer play in the project?
I don't know.
What?
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 Did you consider maybe the company that did work before, TRC, for this project, since they do engineering, Rosen?
I have it on good information that in short order, that'll be proven to be deficient, but, you know.
Wait,
I think
Wait a minute.
once their information-
Whoa!
Let's go back through that scenario again.
You may be gonna have to listen to that again. I have it on good. That sounds like some crap that somebody from the media would say. I have it on good authority. Wait a minute, we say that.
Yeah, hold on a second. I'm going to roll back through that whole thing there. Hey, Terry Norris, glad to have you watching this evening. We're going down the rabbit hole of the City Council and the Union Pacific Railroad and people dropping the ball and, I don't know, all sorts of things. So, let's listen to that little exchange one more time. Here we go.
I got to ask, Rex, before you hit go.
Yeah.
Is everybody following along here? Are y'all up to speed? Are y'all catching the drift so far? Because we haven't even got to the home run ball here. We hadn't even got close to it yet.
Well, let me put up a comment real quick from Kayla Larkin. She's got a good comment. Money and power doesn't change people. The acquisition of money and power amplifies poor behavior. Interesting.
That's a good one.
And your lovely wife says politics is power. As we know, King David loves politics. All right, so here we go. Let's listen to that exchange again.
I don't know.
Did you consider maybe the company that did work before, TRC, for this project, since they do engineering, Rosen?
I have it on good information that in short order, that'll be proven to be deficient, but, you know, that, I think once their information is transferred and potentially analyzed, there may be problems with that.
Okay.
Proven to be deficient, and there may be problems with that.
Yeah, it just seems like all we can talk about are problems. They generally don't have anything good. And folks, I'm sorry for the low audio from the city council. That's just how theirs is set up, and I didn't have time to boost all of this audio before the show tonight. Bear Saunders has a good comment. It's not hard. The Bossier City Council is inept. Yeah, not corrupt, inept. That's very accurate description there. Okay, so moving on. What are we going now to the 41-20?
Yep, 41-22, and I think this will just about sum up. So if there's anybody out there who thinks that Union Pacific and the problems that you're facing today is a surprise, and we're just now having this surprise, I mean, okay, guys, we're right here at, you done had one warning from Mark Hudson on February the 4th of 2020. Well, listen to what Jimmy Hall has to say on March 17th of 2020.
Yeah, coming up here in 5 seconds. Here we go.
Well, being almost at the finish line and being at the finish line is two different things. Union Pacific, big problem. We haven't reached an agreement with them. That's a big holdup in the deal. If you heard Mr. Hudson's last presentation.
Wait a minute. He just mentioned that that's a big holdup. And by the way, if you just listen to Mr. Hudson's presentation at the last meeting, this is a double whammy for him. Not only is Jimmy Hall saying that, he's reminding them that Mark Hudson has already said this.
He sure did. Now, why is it that the council has Jimmy Hall's words and Mark Hudson's words have fell on deaf ears? Why is that?
That's a very good question. Miss Ann said, Kara said, who said on good authority? That would have been Jimmy Hall that said that. Miss Kara?
Keep rolling with Jimmy Hall.
Okay, here we go.
No agreement. We were supposed to have a meeting with a guy named Mr. Tessier Monday. to address it. And of course, you know, with COVID-19, some of the meetings got pushed off and travel schedules got changed. But we haven't solved that problem. And unless that gets solved, the project's going nowhere. It doesn't matter about the acquisition of land.
Whoa! Unless that problem gets solved, the project is going nowhere. This is Jimmy Hall, City Attorney, March 17th, 2020. Doesn't matter about the acquisition of land. You got to talk to the railroad because you got to cross the tracks.
This project is going nowhere. But you know what? He's not done with those comments. He's got more.
But wait, there's more. Here we go.
Union Pacific has to approve the bridge project. And if they don't approve the bridge project, it's dead in the water.
Bridge.
It's dead in the
The
water.
water.
This project is going nowhere. It's dead in the water if Union Pacific doesn't. It don't matter about land acquisition. Does
Okay.
not matter.
So the bridge is the point north of Shed Road, where
Yep.
the end of the carriageway is supposed to curve around and then go up over the railroad track. So if there's a train parked there, then you don't have to wait on the train. And so you're telling me that the railroad has authority over the railroad tracks.
I think they've got authority over the railroad tracks. I think they've even got authority over Infinity. But
Wait a minute.
But we will get to Infinity here in just a minute because
Okay.
when we start talking about Infinity, we're going to potentially educate the Bossier City Council on navigating this problem that they seem to face today and are incapable of dealing with.
Okay, well, I just wanted to make sure because there is a they're going to have to go over those tracks or around them or I don't know through them or whatever it is at some point.
So we got to go to 4228 because Darby. I mean, I don't know. Darby, he's hot and cold, man. I think maybe he smelt the blood in the water here a little bit. Jimmy Hall chummed it up a little bit, and Darby decided he was going to jump in. Now, again, everybody's got to understand this is all happening March 17th of 2020. And all of this that happened back then is having an effect on today. I mean, literally what took place then is important and relevant to what took place today.
Okay,
right now.
so here we go. This is at the 4228 mark. So this would be Mr. Councilman. Make sure I get it right. It's Jeffrey Darby, right? Just so I don't get them confused this evening.
Roll on with it.
Here we go.
Any other questions from the council?
I have a question. There is no cost to this ordinance if there is a cost factor, an additional cost factor involved. Will that come before us before?
Yes, sir. It'll have to.
All right. All I want to know. Thank you.
Any other questions from the council? There are none, please cast your vote.
Did we miss him?
Oh, I may have got the time wrong.
Okay. 4228.
Try it's got to be.
Wait. I
right
think
around that.
I think it's right here because I think I see his hands moving. Let's see. Whoops. Let's try right in here.
Since the right-of-way is about 60 days or less out from having that completed, and the project is moving along, what would be the incentive of changing now, since we're now almost at the finish line on the project?
Well, being almost at the finish line and being at the finish line is two different things. Union Pacific, big problem. We haven't reached an agreement with them. That's a big holdup in the deal. If you've heard Mr.
Again, they're mentioning the railroad.
There's no agreement. We were supposed to have a meeting with a guy named Mr. Tessier.
Yeah.
So essentially what Darby said was they were talking about at that point on March 17th making Manchac the head of the engineering of the city of Bossier. And Darby said, quote, I mean, Darby, I don't know where you're at today, but you were right. You were on the money. You could have went to the boat and bet the house then because you were there. Where you're at today, I don't know, but I got to tell you, I'm scratching my head a little bit. But he says, and I'm quoting, don't know if this selection is the best and if Manchac has experience in bridges and roads.
Oh, great.
Talking about.
So the group that's basically the city engineers, the collective city engineers, have no experience in bridges and roads, which means they're going to have to naturally outsource that, which is going to drive the cost up.
Well, Darby himself articulated in this March 17th, 2020 meeting that he didn't think that it was a great idea to make Manchac, in charge of city engineering because he was unsure of their experience on bridges and roads. And here today, now guess what? He's being proven right in the position he was taking then. He was the only one that spoke up and kind of really said anything. Jimmy Hall raised awareness. But as far as the councilman goes, Darby was the only one that spoke up with a backbone and articulated his reservations, and he was right. Where is he at today?
Yeah, because here we go. Yeah, fast forward, and they still literally didn't have permission from the railroad to get anything done on this. All right, yeah. So moving forward, what's the next point?
June 2nd, 2020. We're moving right along in time, folks.
Okay.
So we were in March. Now we're moving to June, and we're giving you this as background. So if anybody tries to say that it's anything other than the council here, I mean, Jimmy Hall basically raised the red flag. You can't say it's Jimmy Hall.
Right.
No, sirree, Bob. Darby was raising the red flag. Now, I don't know where Darby's at today, but okay. Let's jump forward here. June 2nd, 2020. Here you've got Justin Haydell, the owner of Manchac. I wonder what Justin Haydell has to say regarding Shed Road and the Walter O Bigby carriageway and Shed Road project. Let's see what he has to say in Union Pacific and how important of a deal that is.
Yeah. All right, here we go.
With many different people, many different agencies. I would like to say with all the parties involved, but there still may be more. So one of the tasks was to prepare a schedule, which we spent some time doing. The first item on the schedule is the design completion. I've got that shown in red because it's a critical path item. Obviously, you can't move the project forward until the design is complete.
And I want to point out who is sitting in the audience to the
item
left.
on the agenda today, supplement number 5 for NTB.
That guy over there in the black shirt?
To allocate some funding.
That's him.
So the design
Might be Councilman
can be
Chris
finished.
Smith.
You also have an item on the agenda allocating a contract and some funding for Coil Engineering to do the Citizens Bank Drive extension piece. So you've really got 3 different pieces of the project that'll be bid separately. 4 if you include Bigham Dentistry. The Citizens Bank Drive extension, the actual roadway portion with the bridge, and then the stormwater pump station, they'll all be separate projects. So just moving down, if you look at the Union Pacific Railroad, we had a conference call with Union Pacific's representative, Rail Pro. We also had Union Pacific's Louisiana or area representative on the phone with us. Drew Tessier is his name. He actually coordinated the phone call for us. It was a good call. TRC and NTB was also participated in the call. That call was on May the 6th. UP said their review process would take anywhere from 5 to 7 weeks. TRC made a submittal to them just I think a day or a couple of days after the phone call. So the 7 weeks is what I have factored into the schedule, which if we haven't heard from them at the end of next week, I'll start making some calls. But I've got some time in here for TRC to respond to any comments UP might have, and also some time for UP to look at the response.
Okay, so I want to point something out. Notice, so this is Justin Haydell, who's the owner, I don't know, maybe CO to whatever, of Manchac. And he mentions that NTB also participated in the call. Not that they were leading the call or they were coordinating the call with Union Pacific, that they also participated. So for our clowns at the city council to jump the gun on Friday and do a special meeting on Monday that they're going to fire the contractor primarily over the Union Pacific deal, they put it in the agenda and then they just delete it out of there. Nobody discussed it.
No, they were blaming the contractor for the failure regarding the Union Pacific deal. They were blaming the contractor. And
But it's kind of like back to the Nixon deal. It's the cover-up that's worse than the crime. And the cover-up here is they put this on the agenda for a special meeting, then they deleted it off the agenda, and nobody said a damn word today at the meeting. People, let that sink in for a minute.
But it ain't just that, Rex. They had the city attorney on Friday draft up a letter of a cease and desist against this contractor who was doing what they were supposed to do, telling them you hold up, we're cutting you off. You screwed up.
And not just that. I want the they part there. It's always they. So the they had to have been members of Tommy's administration, arguably probably Tommy and Amanda too, and members of the city council that met together and discussed this, then decided to, do this ordinance, blah, 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 and then they get their money and just, whatever, no big deal. We're just going to delete this. Zero discussion.
Now, Rex, you remember on the Sunday, the representative or the guy from NTB responded to the city and pointed out in their email that per their contract, the responsibility of securing the permits was the responsibility of the city engineer in the city.
Oh, wait, the contractor who they were falsely accusing of not dealing with the railroad crossing issue are the ones that had to point out to a former judge, now city attorney, oh, wait a minute, you boys might want to read the contract.
You remember the show when they were saying, oh, you need to read the charter. I'm wondering if any of these jackwagons ever thought, including the attorney that is the city attorney, ever thought maybe we ought to read the contract that we have with this company before we accuse them of breaching their contract and their duty.
But, Duke, they didn't. Point of order, Duke. They didn't read that because they put it out publicly that they were going to fire the contractor. Point of order. Phyllis, point of order. Okay.
Phyllis, Marshall, somebody.
Is there anybody in there? Okay, so what? Moving right along, folks. We're almost to the end of this, and hey, we've still got 70-something people watching. We appreciate it because we're at an hour and 20 minutes.
So look, Mark Hudson hasn't been completely kicked to the curb yet, right? So Manchac is being ushered in by somebody. I don't know who, but Manchac is being ushered in by somebody. They're making a big deal that Manchac is the latest, greatest thing.
Mm-hmm.
But Mark Hudson he knows he's on the way out.
Right.
He's on his way out. He's got some parting words, and I got to tell you, I've read into his words a little bit, and I've drawn my conclusion. But I tell you what, Rex, I'm not going to say what my conclusion is about the way he says what he says and the hand gestures that he makes and the direction that he looks. So everybody watching this show, I want y'all to pay attention to Mark Hudson when he makes the comments that he makes, the direction he looks, and the hand gesture that he makes. And I want you to tell me, does he think he's being run over by a Zamboni, or is he running over somebody with a Zamboni in this video right here?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mark.
I just want to say, it sounds like Manchac has done a great job, doesn't it? And I'm glad for that.
Oh, I was so hoping he was going to flip him off. I'd go find him and buy him a steak dinner. Wow.
But Rex, did you see it?
Oh, yeah. Hold on. We'll go back through it again because that's actually the first time that I've watched that. So here we go. Make sure I got it queued up right. Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mark.
I just want to say, it sounds like Manchac has done a great job, doesn't it? And I'm glad for that.
See ya.
That brings us to our next.
He looks to his right.
Which would be over there towards, well, I guess towards who was Jimmy Hall still the June 2nd?
Well,
yeah, Jimmy Hall was still city attorney, and
Yeah,
I'm sure
but
King
King
David was.
David's-
I'm sure King David.
David's sitting right there.
Yep, there
And
he is,
he's-
right there.
And he says, sounds like Manchac has done a great job, doesn't it? That's
Yeah.
a question.
Right.
Doesn't it? Doesn't it sound like they've done a great job? It's almost as if he knew something was coming down the pipe.
Yeah, and our good friend David Womack says the contractor is always the bottom of the pile and takes the heat. And apparently in this case, they try to run over him with a Zamboni/bus/train. Okay. And yeah, and was pointed out we got 70 people still watching, and the Saints are playing, and we're at an hour and 20 minutes. That is incredible. Okay.
Now, you got to jump to the 2850 mark because we would be remiss if we didn't play. You know, I guess David Montgomery's take on everything.
Oh, we get to hear King David.
We do. I think we've got to hear what his take on the situation was.
Oh, here we go. Speak to us, King David.
Standpoint, Ms. Fernandez, if you'd like to add any to that, or so, but you know, I'm telling you on behalf of the council, this is a wonderful and fantastic example of how government and business can come together with a public-private partnership. And as he just pointed out, since we instituted and the council voted along with the blessing of the
Right there.
administration,
That was it.
$10 million.
I want to make a comment so bad, but, you know, this show is open to kids. We do have a lot of ladies watching.
It's a wonderful and fantastic public-private partnership, and here we are left with no option is that we want to conclude a project with millions of dollars spent on a parkway. We got to settle for the last option. I mean,
well, not just that. I mean, it was a lot simpler for me. I want to gush all this praise upon you in hopes that I'll get the insurance business. There. See how much simpler that was? But who knows? Maybe not. He may not have any of the insurance business for that.
He may not. And I've got, I mean, we could go on. The July 7th, 2020 meeting, of course, you've got Gordon Mosley up there talking about that we don't hardly have anybody left to conclude as far as taking their property to be able to put this thing out for bid. And you got Justin Haydell up there saying I think the 1605 Justin Haydell comments, you know, that's probably pertinent.
Let's see if we can get over to that real quick.
Even in July, he's still talking about getting approval from UOP.
All right, so this is July the 7th, right? Yeah, let me
Yep.
put that up there so everybody's clear. And we're going to the 1605 mark. And, you know, Ashley Lee Bullock, I just displayed the comment from her where she says, right, because we do not shop. Ashley, tomorrow evening we're going to go down a rabbit hole because apparently King David has had a change of mind on shopping. And we're going to show you the proof. So let everybody know we've got that on tap for tomorrow evening. King David has officially changed his mind, and we have the video proof. Okay, 1605 mark. Somewhere right in here. This will be pretty close. Here we go. Okay, so this is Justin Haydell,
Good afternoon,
owner of
Mayor,
Manchac again.
Council. I placed on each of your desks a updated schedule and a little written update that I prepared for the project. The update kind of follows the schedule from top to bottom. So the design remains to be one of the critical path items. This is truly a critical path schedule. We're having a pretty big meeting tomorrow here in Bossier with all parties involved that are doing the design. So hopefully we can flesh some matters out and proceed accordingly. The last time I was here, I informed the council that we had made a submittal to UP on May the 6th, and that they had told us it'd be 4 to 6 weeks before we got a response from them. They actually responded while the council meeting was going on. I didn't see the response until after the council meeting, but they conditionally approved the application, which I think is good news, because they don't really have any comments on the bridge. Any issues with the bridge, they said, will be handled during construction with the local people that work for UP, to make sure the trains can keep moving during construction. The only issue they have that they reported on in the first submittal, and again in this submittal, which is not approved, is the drainage where Citizens Bank Drive is going to go, where the bridge lands on the flat land over there by Citizens Bank Drive. The design calls for what they call a special ditch, and UP doesn't like it because the water flows from that ditch to their ditch. And that's just an issue that we're going to have to deal with and figure out another way to do the drainage. Hopefully, after we have that resolved and resubmit to them, it'll be approved. There will be one more submittal to make after this next one, which is called the final submittal, which they tell me should only take them 2 weeks to approve. So I've got plenty enough time on the schedule for us to obtain the.
All right.
So July 7th, and he's talking about 2 weeks. Now, in conclusion, Rex, I mean, don't they say when you're writing a book or you're writing an article, you always preface it with, in conclusion.
Right. Yeah, we gotta circle around to the ending of it and tie it all together.
So in conclusion, he's saying in 2 weeks, right? This was in July of 2020. He's saying this is the owner of the company, in 2 weeks. I'm going to throw this out here, and I may be jumping ahead here, and I may be getting off track, but I'm going to say I went through all these videos, Rex, and watched. Never once did I see Manchac say, you know what? Maybe we ought to slow this thing down and not take any action until we make sure that we've got approval from the biggest. I mean, Jimmy Hall pointed it out. Mark Hudson pointed it out. Maybe we ought not be spending all this money on acquiring land and doing all these things until we've got a permit or approval from Union Pacific.
Yeah, I mean, they have the legal authority to take the property legally, so that's, not going to be an issue. Sometimes different landowners can delay things, but there's not really a problem there and all that kind of stuff. The big problem is the railroads, and literally they can't do the end of the thing till they are able to deal with the railroad, which is the whole point of the carriageway, so they don't have to deal with the railroads yet for how many years now? So, according to, was it Jimmy Hall or whatever, or no, Mark Hudson, according to Mark Hudson, they've been dealing with that since 2017. Yet today, or Friday, they want to act like it's the contractor, and we're going to fire the contractor, then we're going to go Monday in our special meeting and not even discuss why we're firing the contractor off the agenda.
Yeah, we're going to fire the contractor. It's his fault, by gosh, and we've been talking about this since forever. But again, I go back and I digress. So we're going to spend all this money, the council and the mayor, they're going to spend all this money knowing that the most important part, the toughest, hardest, most important thing of this whole project of you taxpayers, of your millions of dollars, is a permit from the railroad to be crossing over this. You know what you want. You want Shed Road and you want the overpass. And that's the most important object. And what do? You make it the last thing. You make the most important thing for this to be successful, the last thing to prioritize. Why is that? How does that make it to the end? You spend all this money and then that's the last issue of importance and relevance. How does that happen?
Well, fortunately, we had a comment earlier from Bear Saunders that just sums it up in one relatively easy sentence. It's not hard. The Bossier City Council is inept. I mean, that just sums up the whole thing.
Or maybe they're not inept. Maybe this was all by design. Maybe it's when you've got the freedom to do what you want to do with the taxpayers' dollars as you wish, when you wish, with no oversight. I wonder if the taxpayers of Bossier City on this project, if you had had the opportunity to vote on this project, would you have voted in favor of this would you have done this knowing that the potential for it to fall into a quagmire at this point, would you have done it? Rex, you're a citizen of Bossier. If I told you that, okay, you're going to go for this project and you're going to wait to conclude the most important part of the business at the very end of it, would you have done it? And not knowing how it was going to turn out, would you have done it?
No, I would have not been in favor of this, mainly because I'm no traffic engineer, but I can look at a map and the existing roads and tell you that they're not solving the Benton Road problem. I'd like to point out that Barry Butler says, so we have a road to nowhere. That goes right along with that sidewalk to nowhere in South Bossier, Barry. They're connecting the two.
So conversely, today, your conservative Republican mayor is going to be supporting adding a $75 million bond in there to their bond renewal thing. I mean, unless he vetoes it, he has the chance to veto it, but he's going to add this $75 million bond in there. And oh, by the way, everybody, the plan is that we're going to build a $30 million YMCA that's not going to produce any tax income. Your revenue. Now, you got to ask. Cut me off, Rex. Yeah, I'm on a roll.
Go ahead.
You got to ask, why would they be so willing to do all of this? Why would they run this down the throats of everybody? Why would you, if you've got bonds that are going to expire in 3 to 4 years, why would you stretch those out for 20 years?
Well, I mean, what does Tommy think it's free money?
Apparently,
it's like, come on, what's the deal here?
Tommy burnished himself as this change, as this conservative leader that was going to, become the mayor of Bossier, and he was going to set things right. But here's my question. So if we've got all these bonds that are going to expire in a few years, why would we not let those go? Why would we renew them and then extend them for 20 years? Has anybody asked that question? And why would we tack on another 75 million? Why would we tack another 75 million in there and stretch it out for 20? I got some ideas, but I'm going to say this for all of y'all watching. Have you ever thought that maybe it's because they know that if you had the opportunity to vote on any of it, you wouldn't vote in favor of it? You wouldn't pass it? So your mayor and your council is trying to prevent you from having a voice in saying where the money's spent. How about that?
Well, and I've said this before, that one of the reasons a lot of government entities use the LCDA, not the only reason, but one of the reasons is basically, they can avoid the ballot box when it is required legally. Just because, you don't have to go vote on those bonds and how to use them. All right, so David Jones says it will be worked out, but the timeline will be set by UP, circling back to the Union Pacific. Hopefully they found a fair and nice railroad guy and never did.
Now, David Jones, that is a good segue to conclude this show. We named this show, Rex, I know you're happy. See, I put a smile on your face when I said that. So we coined this show Infinity and Beyond, right?
Right.
And there's a story behind this. And while David Jones doesn't know that, we know the inside on this deal. And so for the current existing council and city attorney, we know y'all watch. We know that, you have people watch to tell you what we said. We already know that. Okay. But I think you would be wise to take a history lesson here. And for those of y'all watching, we're going to share with you a little bit of history. So there was a time when there was some other dealings with a roadway pertaining to the railroad, right?
Right.
And there was a meeting one time about a bridge that crossed a railroad track that happened in Bossier, and it was not too many years ago. And anyway, so this meeting there was one council member that he's not a council member anymore, but him and a former city attorney participated in a meeting with the railroad with some of their executives, right?
Okay.
And in that meeting, the railroad declared that, hey, this overpass that you created, you actually have created it on our property, on our land, on our lease, and you have no rights to it. In fact, by federal law, we have rights to everything below to the center of the earth and everything above to infinity.
To infinity and beyond.
To infinity and beyond. And the attempt was to strong arm the city and to get whatever they wanted to. And this is in Bossier. So to their credit, the former councilman and former city attorney, on behalf of the citizens of Bossier, the city councilman says to the city attorney, says, hey, and to the railroad representative says, hey, can we step out of the meeting for a second? And if you don't mind, could we have a fresh cup of coffee before we return? And the railroad said, absolutely. They step out of the room, and the councilman and the city attorney speak, and the councilman says, look, do your lawyer thing and follow my lead. So, all right. They go back in the meeting, and the railroad has their fresh cup of coffee made. And the councilman says, look, wanted you to know that, we acknowledge, your claim to infinity and beyond. But what we want to know is, before we go any further, is can you show us the contracts that you have with any of the satellites that pass within your space? Can you show us the contracts with Barksdale Air Force Base or with any of the airlines that fly within your space? When you produce all of those, we will legally recognize your claim to infinity and beyond. City attorney essentially said, you know what? Says, once you produce those, we'll respect your claim, and the meeting was over. And you know what? As they're exiting the meeting, the railroad comes back and says, as the good civic, stewards that we are, we want to let you know that, we acknowledge, your overpass on Benton Road, in our space, and we want to tell you that it's okay, and we ain't got no problem with it.
Well,
and
imagine
the deal
that.
was done. And the deal was done.
To infinity and beyond. Maybe they just need to build the overpass and they can figure it out later.
Perhaps the existing city council should take a note. Maybe they don't need a damn roundabout. Maybe they need to keep Shed Road open. And to those that would say, you know what, it won't cost us anything, as I do recall, they've already 4-laned Shed Road. So you know what? You've already spent money and there has already been a cost. Manchac can wear that. They've already spent money and there's already a cost on Shed Road with their plan. So don't say there's no cost. There is a cost. I don't personally care whether they shut down Shed Road or not, but the point is how they have handled this. It has been amateur hour in Bossier City, from the city attorney to the council. You guys, this is a clown show. It is a clown show at this point.
And even more amazing is that they're acting like amateurs, and you know, half of them have been there 20 some odd years or whatever the deal is, and it takes a couple of amateur, you know, citizen journalists / pundits like you and I to go back through their own videos and find their own words and point all of this out. Just amazing.
For those of you watching, if this doesn't say to you that you need term limits in Bossier City, nothing else will. Nothing else will. Yeah. David Jones says, true story. And hat tip to David Jones. That's one of those things that a guy will never get credit for, but it's a true story. And, you know, him and Jimmy Hall deserve credit for that.
Well, and there were some other commentary as we're kind of wrapping it up now about, you know, can we get that councilman back, or what can we do, you know, in the future and that sort of thing. First thing, folks, is, yeah, keep watching our show. Read news articles from Bossier Now, from KTBS, from all the rest of the mainstream media too. Read the stuff Settle puts out, which is pretty good sometimes. And share that with your friends and neighbors. Encourage your friends and neighbors to vote. Stay engaged. Write your councilman, write your police juror, email them, do all of those things. Show up at the meetings whenever possible. All those sorts of things matter. The problem starts when nobody's at the meetings, when they have empty chairs. Let me scroll down the comments. Hold on.
Oh, Mark Smith. God, I love him. I don't know who he is, but I love him. He says, you forgot the part about the Indians were here before the railroad.
Well, hold on a minute, Mark. You can't call them Indians anymore. You have to call them Native Americans, even though it was in America back then, even though they supposedly came across the Bering Strait and overtook whoever else was here. I mean, we can just go down that rabbit hole as far as we want to. Anyway, I digress again.
David Jones and Mark Smith, could y'all please go down there and give David Montgomery, Bubba Williams, and all the yahoos down at City Council, could y'all go give them a history lesson on how to handle this stuff? Because obviously they've done lost their way. I mean,
they have.
They have lost their way.
Let's close out with this comment from our good friend David Johnson. Says, encourage everyone to tune in to Bossier Watch. There is strength in numbers, and the higher the blood pressures go up, the more they have to actually do stuff the right way. How about that?
I love it. And so, with that in closing, tomorrow night, guess what?
We have another
tomorrow
show.
Night,
Our regular Tuesday evening.
And look, we're going to drag the police jury in here. Bossier City is not exempt. I mean,
and we got to talk about the Cypress District a little bit. There's a little information to share on that. So if you're, have some friends or live up around Cypress, we're going to talk about that. And Black Bayou, we're going to talk about that some more.
So I hope my background was not too detracting from the subject matter. Hopefully it put you into the new millennium, because that's where we're at. That's the only way I can describe what's happening in Bossier City is my background. I mean, you just got to watch this, and this, I guess, explains Bossier City.
I'm going to look for an old Atari set and put in Tron.
Tron, yeah, it's got to be it.
Let's
Good night,
wrap it
Rex
up.
Moncrief.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. See y'all later.